Jake Martinez floated in the pilot seat of his small salvage ship, watching the asteroid field drift past his cockpit window. He had been working the outer rim for 3 years now, picking through the wreckage of old battles and mining accidents. It was not glamorous work, but it paid the bills and kept him far from the crowded inner worlds. His ship's scanner beeped softly. Jake looked at the screen and saw something unusual. A large object was drifting between 2 asteroids. Too big to be space junk and too smooth to be a rock. He adjusted his course and moved closer. As Jake got near, he could see it was a ship. But it was like nothing he had ever seen before. The hull was dark purple and seemed to glow with soft blue lines running along its surface. The design was organic, almost like it had been grown instead of built. No sharp edges or ugly welds like human ships. This thing was beautiful. Jake checked his database. Nothing matched. This was not a human ship, and it was not from any of the known alien races that traded with humans. His heart started beating faster. Unknown alien tech could be worth millions if he could salvage it safely. He moved his ship closer and looked for damage. The alien vessel had several holes in its hull, and one engine was completely gone. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. Jake suited up and grabbed his tools. Time to see what treasures waited inside. The airlock on the alien ship was easy to figure out. Jake pressed his hand to a glowing panel and the door opened with a soft hiss. Emergency lighting cast everything in a red glow. Jake stepped inside and immediately knew something was wrong. Bodies were everywhere. They looked almost human, but not quite. They were tall and thin with pale white skin that seemed to shine in the dim light. Their faces were sharp and beautiful, but their mouths showed long, pointed teeth. Jake had heard stories about space vampires from drunk traders in cantinas, but he had always thought they were just tales. Jake moved deeper into the ship, stepping carefully around the bodies. Most of them wore dark clothing that looked expensive. Some had weapons in their hands as if they had died fighting. Jake wondered what could have killed so many of these creatures. Near the back of the ship, Jake found what looked like a medical machines he did not recognize hummed quietly, their screens showing symbols that meant nothing to him. In the center of the room was a table with someone lying on it. Unlike the others, this one was still breathing. Jake moved closer. It was a young female, maybe 20 in human years. She had the same pale skin and sharp features as the others, but her face was softer, more delicate. Her long black hair spread across the medical table like dark water. Tubes and wires connected her to the machines around her. She was dying. Jake could see it in the way her chest barely moved and how weak the lights on the machines were getting. Whatever had attacked this ship, she was the only survivor, and she would not last much longer without help. Jake should have walked away. Unknown aliens meant trouble, and live aliens meant bigger trouble. The smart thing would be to strip the ship of anything valuable and leave her to die. But as he looked at her face, something stopped him. She was just a kid. Someone's daughter. And she was alone and dying in the dark. Jake made his choice. He carefully disconnected her from the alien machines and lifted her up. She weighed almost nothing, like holding a bird. He carried her back to his ship and put her in his own medical bay. His equipment was basic compared to what the aliens had, but it would have to do. For the next 2 days, Jake worked around the clock to keep her alive. He gave her fluids and tried different medicines, watching her vital signs on his monitors. His ship's computer, which he called Betty, helped him figure out her biology by scanning the data from the alien machines. On the 3rd day, she opened her eyes. They were violet, deep purple like her ship's hull. She looked around the medical bay with confusion, then focused on Jake. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she spoke, and somehow Jake could understand her. "You saved me," she said. Her voice was soft and musical. "Why?" Jake sat down in the chair next to her bed. "You needed help. I could not just leave you there to die." She studied his face for a long time. "I am Lyra. I am the daughter of Queen Selene of the Valkyrie people. My mother rules an empire of 1,000 worlds." She paused and looked sad. Or she did before the Dominion found us. Jake had heard of the Dominion. They were a group of military worlds that conquered other planets and took their resources. They claimed they were bringing peace to the galaxy, but everyone knew they were just bullies with big ships. The Dominion attacked your people? Jake asked. Lyra nodded. They said we were monsters, parasites. They hunted us like animals and destroyed our worlds. Her eyes filled with tears that sparkled like diamonds. I escaped in the medical bay when our flagship was destroyed. Everyone else died fighting to give me time to run. Where were you going? To the Allied worlds, to ask for help. My mother gave me information about ancient technology that could stop the Dominion, but my ship was damaged in the escape. She looked at Jake with those amazing purple eyes. Now, I am trapped here with you. Jake felt his world shifting. This was not just about salvage anymore. This girl was royalty from some vampire empire, and she was carrying secrets that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The smart thing was still to turn her over to the authorities and collect whatever reward they offered. But Jake looked at her face and knew he could not do it. She trusted him. She was alone and scared and depending on him to keep her safe. The Dominion had already killed her people and destroyed her world. Jake was not going to help them finish the job. You are not trapped, Jake said finally. You are under my protection now. And I promise you, Princess, I will help you find a way to save your mother and stop the Dominion. Lyra smiled for the first time since she had woken up. It lit up her whole face like sunrise. Thank you, Jake Martinez. You may have just saved more than one life today. Over the next few weeks, Jake's small salvage ship became home to both of them. Lyra grew stronger each day, and Jake learned more about her people than any human had ever known. She was nothing like the monster stories he had heard in cantinas across the galaxy. The Veil Theory were not blood-drinking parasites like the Dominion claimed. They were ancient and wise, living for thousands of years by sharing life energy with willing partners. It was not stealing or draining. It was more like two rivers joining together, making both stronger. My people call it the song, Lyra explained one evening as they sat in Jake's small dining area. Every living thing has its own music, its own rhythm of life. When two beings trust each other completely, their songs can blend together. Jake watched her hands move as she spoke. Even simple gestures looked graceful when she did them. What does it feel like? Like being complete for the first time, she said softly. Like finding the missing half of your soul. Jake felt something stir in his chest, but he pushed it down. She was alien royalty. He was just a human salvage worker. Some gaps were too big to cross. But as the days passed, those gaps seemed smaller. Lyra was curious about everything human. She watched Jake work on his ship's engines and asked endless questions about how humans thought and lived. She was amazed that humans could be so different from each other yet still work together. Your people are so young, she said one day, but you have such fire in you, such will to survive and grow. My people have wisdom, but we have lost much of that burning desire to reach for new things. Jake was teaching her to play poker with an old deck of cards. She was terrible at it, too honest to bluff properly. Maybe that is why you need each other, he said, dealing another hand. Lyra looked at him across the small table. Yes, I think you are right. Their peaceful time ended when Jake's ship sensors started screaming warnings. 3 Dominion patrol ships had found them near the mining station where Jake was buying supplies. The ships were fast and heavily armed. Jake's little salvage vessel was no match for them. This is Dominion Command Ship Alpha, came a voiceover. The radio. Surrender the alien terrorist and prepare to be boarded. Jake looked at Lyra. Her face had gone pale, but her purple eyes burned with anger. They followed me here. I am sorry, Jake, I have brought death to you. Not yet, they have not, Jake said, firing up his engines. Hold on, Princess. Let me show you how humans dance. The chase was wild and desperate. Jake used every trick he had learned in 3 years of navigating dangerous asteroid fields. He dove between rocks and used gas clouds to hide his ship's heat signature. But the Dominion ships were faster, and there were 3 of them. One of the patrol ships got close enough to fire. The blast hit Jake's engine and sent his ship spinning toward a large asteroid. Jake fought the controls, but he could not stop. The crash. They hit hard, and everything went black. When Jake woke up, he was lying on the floor of his ship. His head was bleeding, and he could feel broken ribs grinding when he tried to breathe. The ship's emergency lights were flashing red, and he could hear air leaking from somewhere. Lyra was kneeling beside him. She had cuts on her face, but she looked more worried than hurt. "Jake, please wake up. The Dominion soldiers are coming. They will be here soon." Jake tried to sit up and gasped in pain. Something was wrong inside his chest. He was hurt bad, maybe dying. "Get out of here," he whispered. "Find somewhere to hide." "No," Lyra's voice was firm. "I will not leave you. You have to. Your people need you. Your mother needs you." Lyra was crying now, those diamond tears falling on Jake's bloody shirt. "I need you too," she said. "And I think I know how to save you." Before Jake could ask what she meant, Lyra placed her hands on his chest. Her eyes began to glow with soft purple light, and Jake felt warmth spreading through his body. But it was more than warmth. It was like music flowing into him, a beautiful song that made his heart beat stronger. "This is the song I told you about," Lyra whispered. "I am sharing my life energy with you. But Jake, once we do this, we will be connected forever. Are you sure?" Jake could hear the Dominion soldiers cutting through his ship's hull. In a few minutes they would break in and kill them both. But that was not why he nodded. He nodded because he trusted Lyra completely, and because he realized he loved her. "Yes," he said. "I am sure." The song flowed between them like electricity. Jake felt his broken ribs heal and his bleeding stop. But more than that, he felt Lyra's presence in his mind, warm and bright and beautiful, and he could feel that she felt the same connection to him. When the Dominion soldiers finally broke into the ship, they found two people waiting for them. Jake felt stronger and faster than he had ever been in his life. His human tactical thinking, combined with Lyra's energy powers, made them a perfect team. The first soldier through the door never had a chance. Jake moved faster than human eyes could follow, and Lyra's power sent the man flying backward into his friends. The fight was over in seconds. As they stood among the unconscious soldiers, Jake could feel Lyra's amazement through their new bond. "You are incredible," she said out loud, but he could hear the words in his mind too. "We are incredible," Jake corrected her. Together. They took the soldiers' weapons and communication gear, then escaped in one of the Dominion patrol ships. As they flew away from the asteroid, Jake felt something he had never experienced before. He felt complete, but he also felt something else through their bond. Lyra was scared, not of the Dominion or the danger they were in. She was scared of how much she cared about him, and what that might mean for her duty to her people. "Everything will be okay," Jake said, taking her hand. Lyra squeezed his fingers. "I hope you are right, because what we just did will change everything." The stolen Dominion ship gave them access to encrypted communications. Jake listened to the military chatter for 3 days before he heard something that changed everything. The Dominion was not just hunting Valkyrie. They were hunting dozens of alien species across the galaxy. "Listen to this," Jake said, playing back a recorded message. A Dominion commander was giving orders to destroy refugee ships from a water world called Aquanus. The people there had refused to give up their ocean mining rights. Lyra sat beside him in the pilot's chair. Through their bond, Jake could feel her anger growing. "They are doing to others what they did to my people." "Yeah, and some folks are fighting back." Jake had found coded messages hidden in the normal space traffic. Someone was organizing the survivors. The messages all pointed to a meeting place in the nebula sector, where sensor readings were bad and ships could hide easily. It took them 4 days to reach the coordinates. When they dropped out of hyperspace, Jake whistled in amazement. At least 30 ships were gathered in the purple clouds of the nebula. Some were military vessels, but most looked like civilian ships that had been modified for war. A voice came over their radio. "Unknown ship, identify yourself, or we will fire. Name is Jake Martinez," Jake said into the microphone. I am traveling with Princess Lyra of the Valtheri. We want to join the fight against the Dominion." There was a long pause. Then the voice said, "Follow the escort ships, and do not try anything stupid." 2 fighter ships appeared out of the nebula clouds and guided them to a huge asteroid that had been hollowed out into a base. As they docked, Jake saw aliens he had never imagined. Some walked on 4 legs, others floated in the air. A few looked almost human, while others were so strange he could not figure out which end was the head. They were met at the airlock by a woman in a modified Dominion uniform. She was tall and strong-looking, with short brown hair and serious eyes. "I am Captain Lisa Wong," she said. "Former Dominion Navy, current pain in their backside." Jake shook her hand. "You used to work for them?" "Until I saw what they really were." Lisa's face was grim. "I was there when they glassed the farming colonies of Ceres Prime. 50 million people died because they would not hand over their grain production to feed Dominion worlds." Lisa led them through the asteroid base. It was bigger than it looked from outside, with tunnels and rooms carved deep into the rock. Aliens of all kinds worked together, repairing ships and building weapons. "We call ourselves the Free Alliance," Lisa explained. "Every species here has lost something to the Dominion. Some lost their worlds, others lost their families. A few, like me, lost their faith in what they thought was right." They entered a large meeting room where several beings sat around a metal table. Jake recognized some of the species from his travels, but others were completely new to him. "This is Commander Rick Stone," Lisa said, pointing to a man whose skin looked like it was made of gray rock. His people were master engineers before the Dominion decided their planet had too much gravity metal in it. Rick nodded at them. His voice sounded like grinding stone. "My world is gone, stripped down to nothing. But the bastards did not get our knowledge." He tapped his temple. "It is all up here. And this is Dr. Amy Chen," Lisa continued, indicating a woman who looked human but had silver lines running under her skin like circuits. "She leads our medical and enhancement teams." Amy smiled at them. "I have heard stories about Valtheri, healing abilities. We could learn much from each other." As they sat down at the table, Jake felt overwhelmed. These people had lost everything, just like Lyra. But instead of giving up, they had found each other and decided to fight back. "What do you need from us?" Lyra asked. Lisa leaned forward. "Information. The Dominion has been hunting your people for months. They want something specific. What is it?" Lyra looked at Jake through their bond. He felt her uncertainty, but also her trust in him. She had decided to tell them the truth. "My mother knows the location of the ancient archives," Lyra said. "Technology left behind by the first ones, the race that came before all of us. The Dominion thinks it is a weapon, but it is not. It is something much more important." Rick's rocky face showed interest. "What kind of technology?" "World builders, planet healers, the power to turn dead rocks into living worlds, to restore places that have been damaged by war or disaster." Lyra's eyes glowed softly. "In the right hands, it could fix everything the Dominion has broken." The room was quiet for a moment. Then, Amy spoke up. "Where is your mother now?" "Titan Base," Lyra said quietly. "The Dominion's maximum security prison. They are trying to force the information from her mind." Jake had heard of Titan Base. It was supposed to be impossible to break into. The Dominion kept their worst enemies and most dangerous prisoners there. "We have been planning an attack on Titan Base for months," Lisa said. "But we never had enough ships or the right information to make it work." "Now you have both," Jake said. "Lyra knows the base layout from Royal Intelligence files, and I think I know how to get inside." Over. The next week, Jake worked with the resistance leaders to plan the rescue mission. His tactical thinking, combined with the unique abilities of each alien species, created a battle plan unlike anything the Dominion would expect. Rick's people could manipulate gravity, making their ships nearly impossible to hit. Amy's enhanced. Humans could survive in conditions that would kill normal people. Other species brought their own special talents to the fight. But the real key was Jake and Lyra working together. Their bond allowed them to coordinate attacks and share information instantly. When Jake thought of a strategy, Lyra could feel it and adapt her energy powers to make it work better. "I have never seen anything like this," Lisa said after watching them practice. "It is like you two share the same mind." "Sometimes we do," Lyra said, smiling at Jake. As the day of the attack approached, Jake felt nervous and excited. They were about to take on the most powerful military force in the galaxy. But for the first time since he had found Lyra's ship, he felt like they had a real chance to win. The Resistance fleet launched from the Nebula base just before dawn, ship time. 37 vessels of all shapes and sizes, carrying beings from 20 different worlds. They were going to save a vampire queen and change the fate of the galaxy. Jake looked at Lyra in the co-pilot seat beside him. "Ready, princess?" She squeezed his hand. "With you, I am ready for anything." Titan base hung in space like a metal moon, surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships. It was the size of a small city, built into a dead asteroid and covered with weapons. Jake had seen pictures before, but seeing it in person made his stomach tight with fear. "That thing is huge," he whispered. Through their bond, Lyra shared her memories of the base's interior. Miles of corridors, thousands of prison cells, and at the center, the maximum security level where they kept the most dangerous prisoners. That was where they would find Queen Selene. "Remember the plan?" Lisa's voice came over the radio to all ships. "We hit fast and hard, draw their attention to the main assault while the rescue team gets inside." Jake was piloting a small stealth ship with Lyra and 6 resistance fighters. Their job was to get to the prison levels while the main fleet kept the Dominion busy. It sounded simple, but Jake knew nothing about war was ever simple. The battle started with Rick's gravity ships appearing out of nowhere, their weapons tearing into the defensive platforms. The Dominion responded quickly, launching hundreds of fighters and bringing their big guns online, space filled with laser fire and explosions. Jake used the chaos to slip his small ship through the outer defenses. The stealth systems were working, but they would not last long once they got inside the base. He docked at a maintenance port on the base's lower level and the team moved out. The corridors were full of alarms and running soldiers. Jake led them through the maze of passages, following Lyra's inherited memories of the base layout. They had to fight twice, but their mixed team of humans and aliens worked together perfectly. When they reached the maximum security level, Jake's heart sank. The door was 3 feet of solid metal, protected by energy shields and guard towers. Getting through would take too long, and by then the whole base would know they were there. "I have an idea," Lyra said. She walked up to the security panel and placed her hand on it. Her eyes glowed purple, and Jake felt power flowing through. Their bond. Vile theory technology helped build this place. My mother's genetic code should still be in the system. The massive door began to open. Jake stared at her in amazement. "You could have done that the whole time?" "I was not sure it would work," she said with a small smile. "And I wanted to see how humans solve problems." Beyond the door was a long hallway with cells on both sides. Most were empty, but Jake could hear sounds from some of them. Prisoners who had been locked away for crimes against the Dominion, people who had fought for freedom and lost. Queen Selene was in the last cell. When Jake saw her, he understood where Lyra got her beauty. The queen was tall and graceful even in prison clothes, with the same purple eyes and flowing black hair. But there was something else in her face that Lyra did not have yet. Ancient wisdom and the weight of ruling an empire. The queen looked at Jake with surprise, then at Lyra with relief and love. "My daughter, I knew you would come." "Mother," Lyra said, tears in her eyes, "we are here to take you home." "But Queen?" Selene was looking at Jake with a strange expression. "And who is this human who glows with Vale Theory energy?" Jake felt heat in his face. Through their bond, he could feel Lyra's nervousness. They had not talked about how to explain their connection to her mother. "This is Jake Martinez," Lyra said quietly. "He saved my life. We are bonded." The queen's eyes went wide. In all the stories Jake had heard, Bonding between different species was rare and powerful. For royalty to bond with an alien was almost unheard of. Before the Queen could respond, explosions shook the base. The battle outside was getting worse, and Jake knew they were running out of time. "We need to go," he said. "This place is going to fall apart soon." As they ran through the corridors, Queen Selene surprised Jake by keeping up easily despite weeks in prison. When they reached the hangar where Jake had left their ship, Dominion soldiers were waiting for them. "Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick," the lead soldier said. That was when Jake learned what a vampire queen could really do. Selene raised her hand and purple energy flowed from her like lightning. The soldiers dropped their weapons and fell to the ground, alive but unconscious. "Impressive," Jake said. "I am rusty," the Queen replied. "A few months ago, I could have done that to 100 soldiers." They escaped the base just as Rick's gravity weapons tore it apart. The rescue fleet pulled back to a safe distance and watched the massive structure break into pieces. Hundreds of prisoners escaped in stolen ships, finally free after years in Dominion cells. But the real celebration started when they returned to the Nebula base. Queen Selene's knowledge of ancient archive locations meant the Resistance could find technology to fight back properly. Within days, they had the coordinates to 3 different archive sites. The first archive they found was on a dead planet, in an empty system. The ancient buildings were still intact after millions of years, protected by energy fields that only activated for the right genetic codes. Queen Selene and Lyra opened the seals together. Inside, they found something incredible. Not weapons, but machines that could restore life to dead worlds. Technology that could clean poisoned air and water, rebuild destroyed ecosystems, and turn barren rocks into garden worlds. The first ones were not conquerors, Queen Selene explained as they explored the vast archive. They were gardeners. They spread life throughout the galaxy and then disappeared, leaving these tools for others to find when they were ready. Jake watched alien machines that could terraform entire planets in months instead of centuries. The Dominion wanted this to make more worlds for themselves. Yes, but we will use it to fix the worlds they have broken. That night, as the Resistance celebrated their victory, Queen Selene asked to speak with Jake privately. They walked to an observation deck where they could see the nebula clouds swirling around them. "You bonded with my daughter," the Queen said. "It was not a question." "Yes, Your Majesty, to save my life, but also because—" Jake struggled for words. "Because you love her." Jake nodded. "I know I am just a human. I know she is royalty and I am nobody special. But I love her more than my own life." Queen Selene was quiet for a long time. Then she smiled, and Jake saw where Lyra got her beautiful expressions. "Jake Martinez, you led a rescue mission against impossible odds to save someone you barely knew. You united dozens of species in a fight for freedom. You helped us find technology that will heal the galaxy." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "If that does not make you special, I do not know what does." The next day, Queen Selene made an announcement that shocked everyone in the Resistance. She declared Jake to be Prince Consort of the Valtheri Empire, the first non-Valtheri ever to hold royal rank. "My daughter chose well," she said at the ceremony. "And so did our people." As Jake and Lyra stood together, surrounded by friends from a dozen different worlds, he thought about how much his life had changed. A few months ago, he was just a lonely salvage worker. Now he was helping to rebuild the galaxy. But the best part was not the title or the responsibility. The best part was the way Lyra looked at him, purple eyes full of love and trust and excitement for their future together. "What happens now?" Jake asked her. Lyra smiled and took his hand. "Now we build something better, together."